My friends, it looks like the Russian retaliation has begun, and it began with a widespread attack against several regions of Ukraine, including the capital. The Ukrainians claim it could have been worse if they hadn't launched a preemptive strike against military bases in the Saratov and Ryazan regions. In other words, it seems like things are escalating. But let's get to it. In the early hours of today, Friday, Russia launched a series of missile and drone attacks against the Ukrainian capital and other cities in the country. According to local authorities, 3 people were killed in Kyiv. All of them were rescue workers who had just arrived at the site of one of the explosions. The Russian Ministry of Defense stated that the targets were military or related to military infrastructure and that the offensive was a direct response to what they called terrorist acts by Ukraine. The Ukrainian Interior Minister confirmed that among the dead in Kyiv were teams providing immediate aid after the first impacts. Minister Andriy Sybiha described the situation by saying that Russia retaliated for the attacks on its aircraft by bombing civilians and hitting multi-story buildings and power facilities. According to the Ukrainian Air Force, more than 400 drones were used, one of the highest numbers recorded so far, in addition to 45 cruise and ballistic missiles. The capital was heavily hit. The subway system was disrupted, with tracks damaged between stations, and the railway company reported that trains had to be rerouted due to damage outside the city. Witnesses reported explosions so powerful that they shook windows in neighborhoods far from the impact sites. Kyiv residents sought shelter in subway stations or underground garages. In one of the capital's neighborhoods, a drone struck a residential building, creating a hole in the facade and leaving burn marks. Parked cars were destroyed by chunks of concrete that collapsed. During the night, the characteristic noise of Russian kamikaze drones could be heard, along with Ukrainian air defense firing to intercept them. Zelensky, as usual, again urged Ukraine's Western allies to intensify pressure on Russia. According to him, if the international community doesn't act, it ends up being complicit in the continuation of the deaths. Besides Kyiv, cities like Ternopil and Lutsk were also hit. In Ternopil, damage to the power grid left part of the city without electricity, and residents were advised to stay indoors due to toxic substances in the air following a fire. In Lutsk, 15 people were injured, and there was damage to houses, schools, and public buildings. Well, folks, the Russians have a different version of the attack. According to them, all the targets were carefully chosen due to their military relevance, even those located in multi-story buildings. According to spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, everything that was done aligns with what the Ministry of Defense had already announced. He stated that if people paid attention to the official statements, they would see that the attacks were a clear response to the actions of what he called the Kyiv regime. And this response, just to remind you, had already been anticipated by Putin in a phone call with Trump earlier this week. Peskov was directly asked about this, whether these attacks were the promised response, and he basically confirmed that yes, they were. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, long-range missiles launched from air, sea, and land were used, along with combat drones. The targets were said to include offices involved in military projects, factories responsible for producing and maintaining Ukrainian war equipment, drone assembly workshops, military training centers, and arms depots of the Ukrainian armed forces. And according to Russian military sources, all intended targets were hit and the objective of the operation was achieved. Well, folks, as I said earlier, the Ukrainians claimed they anticipated the Russian attack and prevented it from being worse. According to them, they carried out a preemptive strike in the Saratov region in southern Russia, more precisely in the city of Engels. The attack, which also took place today, was carried out with drones that struck an industrial facility there, causing a large fire. The images circulated on social media and were verified. The local governor, Roman Busargin, confirmed the attack but did not specify the type of facility hit. What is known is that besides the industrial structure, a residential building was also damaged. Fortunately, according to him, there were no casualties.